Okay, so I'm going to be going affirmative, negative, and then I'm just going to be kind of reviewing why the negative is winning so far in today's debate. So first of all, let's look at the value criterion clash in today's debate. Now, I conceded to my opponent's value criterion, and so what we're going to be doing here is it's going to be just a weighing against each other which one achieves, quality of life better, free trade or protectionism. However, my opponent never attacked the negative value premise in this situation. He never told you why protectionism does not achieve quality of life. Instead, he only defended the arguments that I made against his case, simply by making the same generic rebuttal saying that human trafficking is irrelevant to the realm of this debate. Well, first of all, I'm going to expand on that a little bit later, but first of all, that's completely untrue, and so we see that thus far in today's debate, there's been no attack on the negative value criterion premise. For this reason alone, you have to vote for the negative because this is the only because no matter what, at the end of this debate, there's going to be some minute attack on the affirmative case. So already the negative won. But going down the floor, I'm going to refute the other attacks, the further attacks my opponent made. So first of all, let's go to the attack my opponent made on every aspect of the debate in regards of human trafficking, simply by saying it is irrelevant. First of all, this is a value debate, and so in a value debate, we have to look at the morality, we have to look at the ethics, we have to look at these things in order to determine the debate. This is not a policy debate, this is not an empirical evidence debate, this is a debate focusing on morality and issues of ethics. So when we come to something like human trafficking, people being taken from their homes, from their friends and their family, and forcibly sold into this lucrative slave trade industry, it is by no means something that we can consider irrelevant in the realm of this debate, especially since human trafficking is something that we can directly attribute to free trade, a point my opponent never touched on. And so this is going to be my main defense on my main rebuttal in his contention 1. Going down to contention 2, my opponent says that people should, we need to look to free trade anyway because of all of these positive effects that are happening in these other countries. Well, first of all, I have 2 points here. One, other people, being the people who are suffering from human trafficking, should not suffer. These innocent people, so other innocent people should benefit. What we're doing here is we're taking 2 human lives and we're saying yours is more important than the other, so yours is going to survive. Secondly, by voting for the negative, you still get this positive impact of these people being helped through free trade. The main reason is that voting for protectionism above free trade does not abolish free trade. You see, free trade and protectionism have never existed interdependent of one another. They have both always existed at the same time with one another. You're never going to have free trade without protectionism. You're never going to have protectionism without free trade. And so, of course, we're still going to trade with these countries. We're still going to help these countries. But we're going to have more protectionist policies. We're going to be protecting our imports and exports more. There's going to be more checks and balances. And you know what? We're not going to be having people, as many at least. Of course, it's still going to exist. It's always going to exist. But we're not going to have as many people sold into this horrible industry in which they're devalued and their humanity is completely ripped apart. Now, I'm going on to my opponent's contention 3. First of all, extend all my prior arguments on his contention 2, but I'm going to expand on something else a little bit more here. When we get to the point that we say free trade is human trafficking is irrelevant, then what we do is we begin to devalue human life. We say human life is not important. Instead, money is what's important because money makes the world go around, apparently. This is the idea that we're looking towards. However, this is by no means true, and this is by no means something we need to look towards. Because you see, even if it were only one person who was being sold into this kind of industry, who was having these horrible things done to them because of this system, that would be enough to negate it. However, we see that it's a lot more than one person. It's hundreds upon thousands upon millions of people every single year. And this is by no means, in no situation, and in no way, a small impact. This is something that my opponent cannot just blow off as he has done. Because, again, this is a value debate. We have to look at the value and ethical portions of today's debate. In fact, my opponent gave the comparison that more people die on average in war than from human trafficking. And you know what? I'm not going to negate this point because it's absolutely true. But it does not establish my opponent's point, and it does not prove their stance. You see, here's the kind of thought my opponent is doing. He's saying that because this one thing is worse, we should look towards this other thing because it's not as bad. However, why do we need to look towards either? If we vote for free trade, war will still happen. If we vote for protectionism, war will still happen. Either way, war is not going to be decreased. However, if we vote for free trade, human trafficking is going to stay the same. If we vote for protectionism, human trafficking, the numbers will lower there, and there will be less people who have to deal with human trafficking and who are dying, being sold into human trafficking every single day. In fact, I'm going to compare this argument a little bit more. It's like saying, for instance, that alcohol gets you drunk and kills your brain cells, and so instead you should just eat candy and rot all your teeth out. First of all, that is not a good warrant to say that you can't. You should just eat as much candy as you want to. It's just saying this is worse, so I'm going to do what's less worse. That is not a good point. And so now let's go into the negative stance. First of all, I'm going to extend all of my prior arguments that I made in refutation of my opponent's claims in defense of my own. Because my opponent is still going on the same line of thought. He's harping on this idea that human trafficking is not a big deal. However, it absolutely is a big deal. And my opponent gives you no warrant, no logical evidence, no empirical evidence, nothing to have you believe otherwise. So you cannot believe otherwise. We have to remember, and we have to continue to debate this in the form of the LD debate style my opponent has intended to and look towards to. And so now, in closing, you must weigh the affirmative and the negative side through quality of life, and you must see which side most accurately upholds quality of life. And we see that through the negative stance, we're still going to get all the positive impacts you get from the affirmative stance, but we're also going to be lowering human trafficking, which is the only reason, which is the only vote. And thus closing, the negative is the only vote you can have in today's debate if you want to look towards quality of life, the consensual value we have. And so for all of these reasons, you absolutely must vote for the negative in today's debate. Thank you.